Hello everyone and welcome back to yet another video. In this week's episode, we are going to be looking at the movie Wolf Creek. Why am I looking at the movie Wolf Creek? Well, that's because, at the end of almost every video I do, I always say, if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Well, someone took that to heart. If we look right here, here is the comment. I feel this movie had a message about our society is doing. Do Wolf Creek based on an actual killer with a little Hollywood mixed in. And the actor has a struggling backstory in real life with certain allegations. If you're wondering where this comment is, this is under my nefarious video. Go check that one out if you want to, and you can say what you want about me, but you can't say I'm not a man of the people. So Wolf Creek, let's get it going. So if we go ahead and pop on over to the IMDb page for Wolf Creek, we see that this movie came out in 2005. 2005, that is a solid 18 years ago. That is older than more than half of my lifespan. This movie is almost as old as me at this point. But we also see that even though it's been out for 18 years, we see that it has a 6.2 out of 10 rating. That ain't bad with 77,000 ratings. It also has a popularity of, bear with me here, 4,526, which is apparently down 636 from where it was last time it was ranked. And I mean, how can I blame it? This thing's been out for 18 years. The fact that it's in the top 10,000, pretty decent. If we pop down onto the top cast, we see that we have Nathan Phillips playing Ben Mitchell, Cassandra Margaret playing Liz Hunter, Cresty Morassi playing Christy Earl, and John Jarrett playing Mick Taylor. If you remember from the comment that I said literally not more than 20 seconds ago, at the back end of that, he mentioned the main character is having struggles with real-life accusations. Well, that would be Mr. John Jarrett here. We will discuss that later on in the movie, a little bit after the review, but with that being said, we know what you all came here for. It's time to review this bad boy. Allow me to go ahead and set the scene for you for this movie. Imagine the beautiful Australian outback. The only downside is it's the year 1999 where everybody dresses like this, and you'll probably hear one of these songs playing on the radio. We open up our movie with our good old main character Ben here purchasing a car for $1,500, and I mean, man, what a steal. Not necessarily for $19.99, but what a steal. We also find out the reason he got it so cheap was because the thing barely runs, as he's already trying to get it fixed no more than 30 minutes later. But after not too long, Ben manages to meet up with his homies Liz and Christy as they decide to do what normal people do and party the night away before the next day going on a very long and strenuous hike through Wolf Creek. I mean, isn't that what everyone's supposed to do the night before you go on a super long hike? Just get absolutely hammered? I'm sure that's exactly how it works out. But now it's opening credits time, baby. Let's go. Always the best part of every movie. After not even making it there on their first day, the second day that they begin their journey once again, they stop at a nice little rest stop to, fill up, get some food, maybe take a bathroom break. All while Ben almost gets plastered by a dude who's the size of a small Mack truck. And I mean, how can this day just not start off any better for them? I mean, waking up, going to stop somewhere to go to the bathroom, nearly getting beat to a pulp. I mean, that sounds like the most beautiful day. That should be in a day in my life TikTok ever from now on.
After lunch, I take a few minutes to remember the Alamo.
But let's go. They finally make it to Wolf Creek, baby, and that's the end of the movie. Thank you all for coming by. No, just kidding. This is where it all begins. We made it to the giant hole in the ground. Let's go. And after arriving at our much anticipated crater, they do what everybody does when you go to see a crater. Kind of walk around, smoke some cigarettes. I mean, Ben makes out with Liz for a little bit, which, God, that just sounds gross. It's just a mixture of cigarettes and morning breath. That just doesn't sound comfortable. And, to commemorate their time there, Ben also just kind of takes a leak out in the middle of nowhere. Way to really commemorate your trip of nature, buddy. Who are these people? Why are they the way that they are? But I mean, thankfully, the fact that Ben went and sprang for the ultimate premium car package, the car no longer works as soon as they hop in. So I guess you better start becoming one with nature because you're going to be here for a while, mi amigo. But oh man, thankfully, there's a car coming in the distance. Why is there a car coming to Wolf Creek crater in the dead of night. Like, where does this make any sense whatsoever? But don't worry, because I want you to close your eyes for a second and just really immerse yourself in everything Australia. I want you to think of kangaroos. I want you to think boomerangs. I want you to think of all the terrible creatures that live out in the outback. Everything that you could possibly think of. And picture what an Australian man would look like. And that's who walks out of this car. It is the epitome of what an Australian man would look like. Full on with the hat and the plaid shirt and everything. Like, this is Australian man to a T. But Mr. Australian man tells him that their car is completely done for. It ain't gonna go nowhere. You ain't gonna do nothing. He has the tools to fix it, but it's all back at his camp. Which, luckily, I mean, he can tow them there, he could take them there, but you're gonna have to be on his land for a little bit. But he manages to tow them back to his camp, and they all begin to have a nice little conversation by the fire. And I hate the fact that I mentioned this to myself, but the way that he laughs, for some reason, it reminds me of a Minecraft villager. He just kind of gives like a kind of laugh, and all I can hear is just the villager. So, now that I've heard it, you can hear it too, and we can suffer in this together. And they all just listen to his stories of how he used to hunt down wild boars and kill all these different animals, and eventually the night just goes on until, I kid you not, they all start burping and farting.
Oh, excuse me.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our media. Thank you, everyone. I will make sure that this gets nominated for every award for the rest of time. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to thank the Academy. After managing, though, to fall asleep on the nice, peaceful, cold, hard ground, Liz wakes up to find out that she's been tied up and gagged and held together with zip ties, and upon seeing this, she immediately tries to get out, but realizes that the door is locked, and oh man, zip ties they're so hard to get out of. So what does she do to really fight back and make sure she survives? She just kind of lays down and kind of goes back to sleep for a little bit until it's nighttime again. I don't know why. I mean, if you wake up and realize you are constricted and, being held captive, I don't think I'm just gonna go, oh man, I think I'm just gonna lay down and take a nap, oh man, being tied up, trying to get out of here for 30 seconds, that's like really hard work. I don't think I want to do that anymore. I'm gonna lay back down. I'll focus on getting out later. I'm sure it's not like life or death right now. But hey, now that it's completely pitch black outside and it's, almost impossible to see anything now she notices a small sliver of glass on the ground that she uses to free herself from her constrictive binds, because I know it's so much easier for me to see random shards of glass during the nighttime and definitely not when the sun is out. But after managing to escape, Liz notices that somebody completely took their car apart, so there's no driving that bad boy out of there. And now, after finally all this time, once she gets her shoes on and she's ready to run out of there, she just now hears Christy scream in the background, because at least Christy was being real nice and wasn't screaming, any other time. She just decided now seems like a great time. We see as Liz looks through the window that she can see that Mick has been torturing Christy this entire time with his bolt-action rifle and really, doing serial killer-esque type things. And so what does Liz do to try to distract Mick? Oh, that's right. She blows up one of the cars that are in the lot. She pours gasoline all over it and rigs a lantern to explode. And I mean, yeah, that definitely gets Mick's attention. As I'm sure that would get everybody's attention. And I mean, hey, to be fair, Liz does a pretty good job of maneuvering her way around and ultimately even getting the jump on Mick, as she has managed to grab the rifle as Mick was too busy tormenting Christy and showing her dead bodies of other people. If you're gonna be a serial killer, maybe, keep an eye on your gun. And it's all over now, because all that has to happen is Liz just has to shoot him, right? And it's over. And she does shoot him in the neck and kind of hits him with the gun. Like, look, I understand if you shoot someone in the neck, you're probably going to think that person's dead. Just do the zombie land rules, make sure you do the double tap just to be safe. But now they're home free, right? Now all they need to do is grab the keys off of Mick's body and go hop in his truck and they can get out of there, right? Well, they do. They hop in his truck with the keys, but Mick ain't down, and Mick has produced a shotgun from his inventory, I guess, and he starts immediately taking shots at them. And instead of deciding to drive away in the truck and, try to get to safety, why not just, absolutely floor it and try to run him over? And in the meantime, incapacitate the truck. That is, until they back out and get on out of there, as they should have just done to begin with, because I'm pretty sure they didn't hit Mick on the way in. But now the two have to be home free, right? They're in the truck. All they have to do is drive north and don't let up until sunset. Only as they're driving, they manage to almost drive off of a cliff. Like, where are these? I understand. It's the dead of night, but I mean, you can see glass in the middle of nowhere. You can probably see that you're driving towards a cliff, perhaps. But so they have to stop the truck, and as they try to turn it around, guess who shows up? That's right, Mick, because homeboy just got that 18-car garage and just has cars sitting around, you know? And their beautiful hiding strategy is to get on the other side of the cliff and just hide right underneath the ledge, which, in my personal opinion, in this scene, you can see the light touch them, and surely that means if the light touches them, then he has to be able to see them, right? But I guess not. Maybe I don't understand how light works. I've only been living on this planet for roughly 25 years, so, you know, maybe I'm just wrong. But, oh man, now that the truck doesn't work, they have no other choice but to obviously go back. And obviously, Christy, being the smart one, does not want to go back, but Liz is like, you know what? I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna get us another car, and I'm gonna get us out of here. Just perfectly planned, you know? That is, until she returns back and goes down into a basement of sorts and sees numerous dead bodies. Little fun fact, this is only in the unrated version. If you get the normal rated version, I guess, this will not show up in that version. So that's a nice little Easter egg for you. Liz also finds out that Mick has been doing this for quite a while, finding a lot of souvenirs and memorabilia from other families that have traveled to Wolf Creek, with video cameras, pictures, and keepsakes from all of them. Even finding a video camera that shows almost the exact same thing happening to them is happening to the family from beforehand. And I mean, we can only assume that they endured the same fate. And in going through her own video footage that was filmed by Ben, she notices in the background the same truck that he was driving when he abducted the other families, which means he had to have messed with their car, knowing that they were going to get stuck there. Bum, bum, bum. Massive reveal, baby. And speaking of massive reveals, either Liz has the worst luck known to man, or Mick is super lucky and clairvoyant, because she hops into one of the cars to try to get out of there, only to realize that, oh my gosh, Mick is sitting in the back of the car. What? Mind blown. Like, how would he have known that? And of course, now that he's got her in his grasps, he just kind of, finishes the job. And in the words of Mick, he turns her into a head on a stick by basically severing her spine. And that is the end of Liz. But enough of Liz, why don't we just go on to Christy, the one who was left out in the middle of nowhere? Well, she also fell asleep. These three, they just fall asleep quite a bit, it seems. And it implies that he drugs them, and that's why they fell asleep to begin with. But the fact that they keep falling asleep, like, you think the adrenaline would have kicked in by now to where they're just like, you know what, sleep, and it ain't gonna happen. But anyways, Christy, after waking up, manages to just roam on forever and ever until she finds a main road and continues down that main road until a car is coming down the street. No, it has to be Mick, right? There's no way it could be anyone else, but no, it's actually a normal pedestrian, a pedestrian who is going to help her. But unfortunately for her, we find out how much of a deadshot Mick is in proceeding to deadshot the driver of the car. So now, what's Christy gonna do? Is she going to mourn for the person who tried to save her? No, I mean, I respect that. Get in the car and drive on out of there. There's no saving him. He was shot through the eye. There ain't no coming back from that. But in typical, just main character in a horror movie fashion, she manages to drive Mick off the road. And so now, all she has to do is drive away, right? Until she sees in her rearview mirror that Mick has taken out his gun and is aiming it at her. And, we established that he's a dead shot, right? So if I was in the same situation, the first thing that would go through my head would be, oh, he's gonna try to shoot me. Maybe I should try to, maneuver, bob and weave, not just drive in a straight line, but instead, Christy decides what's the fastest way from point A to point B? A straight, solitary line, which allows Mick to shoot out her back tire, causing her to flip the car and ultimately seal her fate. And to get rid of the evidence, Mick piles both the bystander and Christie's body into the car and sets it on fire, thus eliminating all evidence that he was ever there. And now, I know you may be thinking to yourself, where has Ben been during all of this? Well, that's very simple. You see, he has been crucified in the basement with nails through his forearms, attaching him to a board with other dead people who have been crucified to boards. But don't worry, because Ben is super resilient and will not go down that easily. And he manages to free himself. And I don't know where Mick is this entire time. Maybe he's still out, driving, trying to find Christie, or maybe he's on his way back. But I mean, Ben, all he has to do is free himself from that, which, albeit, is pretty difficult considering he is impaled through the forearms, but he manages to, and just kind of walks to safety. Until he is ultimately found by a traveling couple who put him into their car and take him into town and take him to safety. And in all honesty, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that Ben survived, but at the same time, I'm like, this has got to be probably one of the most anticlimactic survival stories to a horror movie, because it's not like he defeated some great evil or really did a whole lot. I get it, nails through the forearm is not exactly fun, but he kind of just, left. He kind of just walked away. I know he has no idea what happened to his other friends and everything like that. He just kind of left. I don't know. I find that incredibly kind of funny. And at the end of the movie, we get this nice little post-credits thing where it says, despite multiple searches, they never found the two victims, and early investigations were very disorganized due to confusion of the location and the fact that it's in the Australian outback. It could be literally anywhere. And after 4 months in police custody, Ben was later cleared of all suspicion, and he currently lives in South Australia, yada, 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 yada. How did they never find any evidence? He set one of the cars on fire off of what is presumed to be a main road. I mean, it wasn't even like a dirt road, it was paved. That means somebody has to travel down that road somewhat periodically, and nobody ever found that car, unless you're telling me that somehow Mick disintegrated this car. Because I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of burnt cars. They don't just turn to ash. This isn't like the cartoons where you light a little Acme box and it turns into dust. They leave like a husk or a shell of what the car is, and the bodies there would be evidence of them in the back. But hey, maybe I just don't know nothing. Maybe in this universe, cars just turn to dust with bodies inside. But that is the movie. And you know what that means. That means that it is officially review time, baby. Just a quick reminder for anyone who might be here for the first time, I rank them pretty simply. I have 3 categories, basically. It goes by plot, acting, cinematography, and then it gets a bonus point because each plot, acting, and cinema can be anywhere from 0 to 3. So when you add it all up, including the bonus point, it'll give you my score out of 10. So for the plot, I gave it a 1.5. I mean, it's a pretty standard kind of story. Kids go out venturing into the middle of nowhere. Guy comes by, acts like he's gonna help them, but is actually a serial killer. The huge. I thought it was at least interesting how they had the families at the end where it had basically all the memorabilia from all of them. And in some of the videotapes, you see him repeating certain actions, kind of giving, a more baseline of how he goes about doing what he does. So 1.5 out of 3, right down the middle. It wasn't anything too stupendous or anything like that. For the acting, also 1.5. I thought the acting was okay. I mean, there wasn't anything outstanding to it. We will talk about the main character, Mick, who was played by John Jarrett. We will talk about him after this review, but I felt like everyone did a pretty decent job. I know the killer was very charismatic, and I'm sure a lot of people like the killer. That is why there are now 3 Wolf Creeks, but it's very standard acting that you get. I thought everyone did a good job. I didn't think it was outstanding. It is mid. 1.5 out of 3. That's right down the middle as well. And for cinema, Can you guess what I'm about to give it? It's a 1.5. Yes, it's the same cinema that you see in everything else. I know this came out in 2005, so it's about 18 years behind all the modern day cinema. So they weren't trying to do anything too flashy with it, trying to do anything out there or be new and innovative or anything like that. And that's fine, but it's also just standard cinema. It's 1.5. That's what you get from standard cinematography. And for the bonus point, I will give them the bonus point because they did try to do the whole play it off as a true story thing back in 2005. This was like a new idea saying, hey, what if we just tell people our movie's based off of a true story? And I'll go into that here in a second, but just saying it's based off a true story does not make it inherently true. So they probably got a lot of people like, oh my God, hey, did you know that this movie, it's based off a true story? So back then, this was like the thing. This was you do that and people are going to take it seriously. So I'll give it the bonus point for that. If you want to go ahead and add it all together, if you're not a mathematician, that's fine. Neither am I. I used my calculator. But if we add it all up together, we have a very solid, a 5.5 out of 10. Very middle of the road, nothing too outstanding compared to the IMDb, which was a 6.2 out of 10. I'm not far off from it. I feel like, some people may have bumped it up a little bit more because of the charismatic, nature of the killer, but to me, it's just a very okay movie. It's nothing outstanding. It's not something where I'm like, you know what, drop what you're doing and go watch it. It's a horror movie. It's popularity 4,526 for a reason. It came out 18 years ago, but people still enjoy it. If this seems like something you'd enjoy, go watch it. I'm not your parents, I can't tell you what to do. But that's my review for that movie. I'll go ahead and hop into the other stuff real fast, but if you disagree with my rating, think it should have been higher, lower, let me know in the comments. But now, on to the next part. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into the allegations that were brought against Mr. Jarrett. It recently happened not too long ago that there was a trial basically going over something that happened to him roughly 40 years ago, which already kind of makes it an interesting kind of, situation. But to put it lightly, a woman came out in 2017 saying that she had relations with Mr. Jarrett and they were not exactly how someone would say agreed upon by both parties. Now, Mr. Jarrett remembers this encounter and says that she was more than agreeing to it. She was okay, everyone. And in my opinion, I still think that he's not exactly a great guy because he was cheating on his wife with this person. So in my opinion, just because somebody had relations with someone a long time ago and it was agreed upon by both parties, like he shouldn't be prosecuted for having an affair against his wife because there was no evidence to prove that he did do anything against the law. All he did was be kind of a bad person and cheat on his wife. And that was basically the allegation. He was found innocent and they tried to claim that he was drunk when it happened, but they had evidence saying that he was driving that night and other people attested to the fact that he was in the right mind. And so all the allegations against him were dropped. The jury literally only needed 15 minutes to be like, yeah, I don't think he did anything. So even though he made a mistake as a person and he's kind of a bad person for, cheating on his wife, he didn't do anything illegal. And that was the allegations that were facing Mr. Jarrett. And this all happened back in 2019. So it's still like 5 years later now. So it's a little behind the 8 ball on this, but that was the allegations. He's been cleared of them. It's one of those situations where, somebody comes up out of the woodwork and even though they made a mistake and did something terrible and it does make them a bad person in my eyes to cheat on their wife, they didn't break the law. And that was the allegations against him. And enough of that. Let's go to what is this story based off of so that we're not completely ending this on an absolute dark note. So even though this movie says that it was based on actual events, that's exactly what it is, events, because it is believed that this movie is to be portrayed as 2 different killers kind of that happened in that time frame. In 2001, there was this man named Bradley Murdoch who he got a couple who their names were Peter Falancio and Joanne Lees. And they were traveling on Stewart Highway, but Bradley was able to convince them to pull over, saying that their van was sparking. And in doing so, he was able to get Peter out of the car and he killed Peter outside of the car. And when he tried to murder Joanne, she was able to escape and hide. And eventually she was found by police and they found Bradley. And they never found the body of Pete, but you can tell how the whole mechanic story is very similar in the way of this Wolf Creek, where he tells him, oh, I could fix your car. You just got to bring it to me and I can fix it. You'll be right as rain. And then the other person who this is thought to be believed to kind of be based off of, and it's a name that you might actually know a little bit more, is Ivan Milat. Ivan Milat was a serial killer who killed at least 7 tourists between the years 1989 and 1993, which were kind of known as the backpack killings. A lot of his murders took place in the Belangio State Forest in the southern part of Australia. One of the many people that he killed was James Gibson, and the reason I bring this one up is when they found Gibson's body, they noticed that his spine had been severed by a sharp blade, which, if you remember during the movie, the whole head on a stick thing is very, very reminiscent to that exact scene in the movie. The way that Ivan was caught was one day Paul Onions, an Englishman, was barely able to escape him in 1993. He was able to escape him on the highway after kind of getting an odd feeling about him and seeing him basically pull out a gun and threaten him. He was able to talk to the police and say, hey, this dude just picked me up on the highway. He was gonna kill me. You should probably look into him. In doing so, they linked him to the other murders, but in 2019, Ivan ended up dying in prison after spending 20 years, and he never confessed to any of his crimes, but it is very much believed that he was, the one killing people because he had kind of the same forte with Paul Onions. But those are the 2 people that this movie is believed to be based off of. It's not like a direct one-to-one comparison. Sometimes that's what movies are. You take bits and pieces from stories, put them together, make a charismatic killer, and just roll with it. But that is Wolf Creek 2005 in a nutshell. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe. It lets me know that I am doing something right and people are enjoying it. If you have any suggestions, look, this is already the 2nd movie that I have made a review on that has been suggested by one of the viewers. The last one was the Five Nights at Freddy's video, and now I'm making this one. So if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. I will do my best to try to review it and give my honest opinion of it, and hopefully you like it and you keep coming back for more. But until next time, I hope you all stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.